Hi, I'm Quinn Lemley with Secrets of the Stage. This is the place where we pull back the curtain and we dive into the creative process. And today we are going to talk about velocity. We are going to talk about speaking. We're going to talk about mindset. I have the fabulous speaker and coach and former president of National Speakers Association, Ron Karr. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you, Quinn. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. So you have the Velocity Mindset. This is like your third book?
Fifth.
Your fifth?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what is the Velocity Mindset?
So, I was having some back surgeries in the mid-2000s. And, as you're sitting there on painkillers, you're thinking about your life and you're asking yourself, what did I not do? What was on my bucket list that I didn't get to? And then I started asking myself why I didn't get to those things. And I realized that it was basically three things. It was the stories that we make up as to what we think we can or cannot do.
Right.
It's our ability to engage others in conversation so that they will follow us and do what we need them to do. And then it's also about direction. So what I learned was, velocity, when you hear that word, what's the word that comes to your mind?
I think of fullness and being contained.
Okay.
And something that's consistent.
Consistent, and that's your definition of velocity, which is great. And also, would you agree that speed is probably involved in that?
Probably.
Yes. When I ask my audiences, what's the word that comes to their minds, they all say speed. Now, they happen to be salespeople, so and leaders, okay?
Yes.
So go figure.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the reason why people just think velocity is speed because it's about motion, but that's not velocity. The physics definition is speed with direction. So I started thinking about this, and I'm saying, what stops us from getting to where we want to be?
What stops us?
People don't go after the right direction or the destiny.
How do they know what the right direction is?
Well, first of all, if they create a story as to what they think they can do or not do, or their fears take over as to what they think is possible, or the past drives the future, all of a sudden, whatever destiny they're going after is no longer as powerful as it could be because they're already limiting themselves.
So
right?
it's the self-talk.
It's the self-talk.
Right.
But so question is, for salespeople, for example, if someone comes up to me and says, hey, I've been after this account for the longest time. Finally got my first appointment. I said, great. And what's your sales cycle? How many calls does it take? About 5. So this is your first call. Yeah, great. Congratulations. What's your goal? Close the business. Let me see if I get this straight.
In the first call?
Yes. You're saying it takes 5 calls to close a deal, but in your first call, the goal is to close the business. And they say yes. And I said, well, congratulations. You probably will be out of there after the first call and you won't be welcome back. Because you'll be closing, you won't be asking questions, and you'll be talking too much as to why they should buy from you.
Oh, something that I've heard you talk about is where people don't ask questions.
Right,
enough.
exactly. So a good destiny for the first call would be to qualify whether or not it's the right opportunity for you and for them. And then together create a path forward as to what they need to see in order to close the deal. That's a good outcome, a goal. But if you have the wrong destiny, meaning close the business, which is not going to happen in the first call, your actions are not going to lead towards it. You're going to be pushing too hard, and you're going to be talking too much, and you won't be asking the questions you should be. That's why destiny is so important. It makes sure that our actions are the right actions to help us get to where we want to be.
So let's define what kinds of questions are good questions to ask in defining what your goals are.
Well, at the end of the day, what is the outcome that I want to achieve? And don't let it be limited by any of your limiting belief systems, by any of your fears. Don't think that just because I only did this in the past, it's what I can only do in the future. It's not true. You want to really go after that bucket list. What is it that you want to achieve? And then look at the gaps that you have and say, what do I need to get in order to achieve that?
What are the steps that you would take to have a velocity mindset?
Right. So first of all, you want to identify what is the end result, like a pilot. You know, if you go to Newark Airport and you know you're going to Fort Lauderdale and the pilot happens to be there and you say, where we're going, and he says, well, wherever the winds take us,
right.
would you stay on that plane? Probably not. But a pilot starts with the end in sight. Fort Lauderdale, that's the right airport. It's the right destiny.
Right.
Then they work their way back. They find 2 or 3 waypoints. They know if they're flying over those destinations, they're on the way. Then
So are you saying like reverse engineer?
Yeah, start with the end in sight first. Work your way back. What are the 3 key things that have to happen where I know if I'm doing them, I'm on my way? And then at the same time, what do I have to take into account in terms of obstacles? You know, pilots take into account storms, winds factors, and at the end they have a flight plan that gets them there the safest and fastest way possible.
And so you do consulting and speaking.
Right.
So who are you consulting?
So many times I'm brought in by companies or associations to the CEO level where they're asking me to get their senior team on the right page, on the same page as to where they want to go, because many times there's disagreements at that level. And then we get them there, then we look at the gaps that they have, and then I coach them on how to execute and get to where they want to be.
Are you coaching the CEO or the managers and the people underneath?
So when I speak, I'm usually speaking to an organization, talking about the velocity mindset, getting them engaged and saying there's a different way on how you can grow your business. Companies have claimed that they have achieved over $1 billion in incremental revenues from growing their businesses through the velocity mindset. That's how powerful it is.
Right.
And so when they get that itch, they hear me speak, then they come up to me and they say, okay, here's some of the issues, and we get involved, and then we roll up our sleeves, and I sit down with them and ask them the right questions, and we start helping them get their way on the velocity way to where they want to be.
The velocity way, I love it. So what would it look like when you work with someone? Is it with a company? Is it for a year, or what is the time frame?
It really depends on what the engagement is. So for example, there was a multinational chemical manufacturer. They made this reagent that cut in half the cost of mining copper, saved the copper mines from going bankrupt in the 1980s.
Wow.
Took them 20 years to develop this. When they heard me speak, the VP came up to me and he says, look, you know, we have 65% of the world market share with this product. We saved the industry, but we only have 25% of the largest consumer's business. And all their mines are up for bid. Can you help us get ready for that meeting next week? So they flew me out to Tucson, and I sat down with the key people and I said, what do you want from my intervention? And it was a bid. That industry buys every 3 years, bid for lowest price. And they said, we want to win the bid. And I said, that was not my question. What do you really want? What's your passion? And all of a sudden they started getting emotional and they said, why do we have to bid? We started this industry, we saved them. I said, so what do you want? We want a negotiated agreement. For how long? They bid every 3 years, 10 years, the life of the patents. How much? You have 25%. We want 75%. And I repeated what they requested. You want a negotiated deal, 10 years, 75%. Is that correct? Yes. You have to understand, it takes a different set of actions to get that than it does to win a bid at lowest price. When they bought off on that and they started trusting me, then for the next 18 months, we started giving them the questions to go ask the key people and the client. They started asking the questions. Ideas started coming up on how we can differentiate ourselves. And before you know it, after 18 months, they secured a 10-year, $200 million deal.
Wow.
Negotiated, no bid.
How did you get them, though, into their passion? What techniques do you use?
Just asking the right questions. You know, when they want to win the bid, they're giving me that answer because that's the past. Every 3 years is a bid. That's all they think that they can do. I said, I don't care about a bid. If you could write it yourself, if you can take out a blank piece of paper, what would it look like? And that's when their passion comes out and they say, why bid?
Working with a corporation, is it different mentality than working with entrepreneurs?
Yes, depending on how big the corporation is. You know, the more bureaucratic, they have internal controls and so forth that they have to deal with, and more layers of people who have to be involved and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's still people. people talking to people, people influencing others, and at the end of the day, are we having the right communications?
If you're working with the CEO who has a vision and the managers, and then you have the employees, so how do you make sure everybody's looking in the same direction?
That's a great question. So when there's a dispute or a standoff, my job is to elevate the conversation to a higher level that they both want. And then when we get that to the higher level, then they tend to give up some of their steadfastness and staying locked in a position, and things tend to open up and creativity comes around to get a solution.
Wonderful. And so when you're working with these people, though, I mean, do you use certain exercises, or is it just the questions?
It's really the questions and my ability to problem solve and do deductive reasoning, but sometimes it's a little bit being a psychologist, and sometimes it's a little bit of being a parent. You know, we had a CEO who called me in. He already spent nearly $1 million on me. You know, they had a merger. We helped him get the merger acclimated properly. And then he became president, so he called me in to do a 360. A 360 is where you interview people all the way around that executive, all his direct reports, to see what they think of him, because they don't know that.
Right.
And then we give them the results. So me and my colleague are sitting in the boardroom with the CEO. We're giving him the results. And he keeps giving us his song and dance as to why it's not true. And I'm realizing, you know, we're just wasting our time here. He's not listening. And my partner's getting frustrated. So now I'm sitting there saying, I think it's time for shock and awe. And I pounded my fist on the conference table, and I looked at the CEO, and I used a salty word, and I said, who the blank do you think you're kidding? And he looks at me like, and I said, look, this is your dime. You want to BS us? We'll sit here. But it's not going to get what you want. If you really want to move the needle, you need to be quiet, and you need to allow us to talk, and then ask us the questions.
So you changed his state.
Yes, I changed his state, and then he started listening. He started seeing things differently, and it led to some of the outcomes that he wanted to have going forward.
What is next for you? You just shot a new film.
And we did a new scissor reel because we want to get the new image.
Yes,
of the
new
weight
image.
loss, right?
You have the trifecta.
And,
Tell us about the trifecta.
Yeah, so when I started going on a dating site, some women were telling me, oh, you got the trifecta. The hair, the baby blue eyes that will melt anything in their way,
Yes.
and the teeth.
I love it. I love it. So what is going to be different with this new sizzle reel?
Well, number one, it's going to have some better scripting of the messaging of the velocity mindset, because we learned a lot. And what we realized in the last 2 years, people wanted velocity, but with what's going on in the world, people think it's so much spinning out of control that the last thing they want is more speed. That's what they think velocity is. So they're saying, it's not really what we need. Well, no, when they learn it's speed with direction, and it's not about speed necessarily as it is about getting there to begin with, that's when they get really interested.
So Ron, I want to know what your process is. How do you get inside your clients' minds?
Right.
What is your process?
So the first thing I do is I say, what is it you really want?
So we go back to the questions.
Right. And they're going to say what they think they want. But then in my mind, I can tell if they're holding back or not. So I'll keep prodding till we get to what they really want. Not need, want.
How do you know when you've, like,
When
early?
you hear it, the passion.
Okay.
You can hear it.
Okay.
You really can hear it. You can see a change in state. Like when I was with that chemical manufacturer, they said, what do you want? We want the bid. No, that was flat. Come on, what do you really want? And then they started getting animated. Now you know to get into it. And then I'll ask clarifying questions to make sure that what they're telling me is the way I'm hearing it. Because you can use different words for two different meanings.
Right.
And you got to make sure you're on the same wavelength. Then I'll ask them what the gaps are.
And the gaps where they're missing is what you're...
Yeah, what's preventing you from getting there? Whether it's in the sales process, customer service, whatever, let's figure out what the gaps are. Now, invariably, as you go through this process, the first thing I do is I do that with the CEO. Then I ask the CEO to bring his whole executive team in. Then I do it with the executive team. And I tell the CEO to sit back, don't talk.
So you have to make sure that everybody's looking in the same direction.
Right, but they're not. And then when I say to the CEO, sit back and don't talk, because I want him or her to see what directions they're looking at. I want him to experience it, or for her to experience it. And then if I see that there's discrepancies, then I start elevating the conversation to a higher level, to something that they all want. And I say, okay, now how do we get here? What has to happen to get here?
So they brainstorm with you, and they have first it's what it is, and then do you go with why they want to get there?
Well, that's the passion.
Right. Okay. So it's what, then why.
Right. What are the obstacles?
Obstacles.
And then what are the opportunities
So
to get there?
Okay. So that's the action.
The obstacles and the opportunities actually lead to the action plan, or what they have to do to get to the outcome that they just voiced.
I see. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
And so you're really working from head to toe, or top down.
Yeah, we start with the end in sight.
Right. Well, that's wonderful.
So that they can achieve the end.
I love it. And so what's next for you? What are you going to be on the road again speaking? Or are you focusing more on consulting?
Yeah, I need to speak because that's where the consulting comes from. And I like the energy of the crowds. But I also need to roll my sleeves up, put it to use, and see results. So I love the consulting, because then you're really making deep-rooted change, and you're helping people get over certain obstacles. And there's no greater feeling than that.
What are some of your greatest accomplishments?
That $200 million contract was one. Another one was a medical device company that found me. They wanted to hire me to speak at the national sales meeting. They were $97 million capped.
What does that mean?
They were in the market valued at $97 million for the market shares that were out. And their goal, they had private investors who installed the CEO and the VP of sales, who were brothers. They were part of a professional management team. So they called me up to come and keynote, and I asked, well, what are you trying to achieve? What's your biggest issue? And they shared, we just came out with a new machine, best in class, rated by all the magazines. It can cut, light, and irrigate for an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, and save 7 minutes on a procedure.
Wow.
I said, so what's the problem? Problem is we can't sell it. I said, why? So because Stryker, the biggest competitor, gives it away for free because they can't compete against us, forcing us to make money only on the disposables, like the blades. I said, so what do you want from me? He goes, I want them to sell the machine. I want back the $8 million that's out in the field. And I said, well, I can keynote for you, which is what you're asking me to do, but that's not going to get you that. A keynote is only about awareness. If you really want it, let me go in the field. Let me see the conversation they're having.
Right.
Let me change it. And then not only can I keynote the national sales meeting, I can give you my findings of real results. And they said, okay, let's do it. And they paid for it. And the result was within 3 months, they got back the $8 million.
That's great.
Within 6 months, they were selling every machine. And within 2 years, Stryker left that space. And within 4 years, get this, ready? Drum roll, please.
Da-da-da-da.
They were $97 million cap when I met them. They were sold for $1 billion.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
They're very much amazing.
That is definitely a feather in your cap.
Yes.
Definitely. Is there another book in you?
I'm sure there is, but right now I have a movement in me on the velocity mindset. There's something about what people get in their own way of moving forward. And I feel like I have a job to do, which is to show it to them and to help them through it.
What do you think are some of the biggest obstacles people have?
A, number one, the stories that we create. B, assumptions. We think we know what someone's saying, so we go off on assumptions. Many times we're wrong, and we waste a lot of time and effort trying to do things.
Yes.
We all can relate to that. I actually did a study with my peers. It wasn't scientific, but I said, go back over the last year, think about all the misperceptions you've had, and think about what you did as a result of that, and calculate how much time. Invariably, the minimum was 3 weeks wasted out of the year. If you can get 3 weeks back in a year, what could you do with that?
A lot.
But that was just on the low side.
Right.
There were people coming back with 6 weeks, 2 months, because they went off on projects that didn't make sense. And it wasn't going to help them get to where they want to be.
Do you think that sometimes companies don't see where they can potentially go? Or do they know where they're going to, where they want to go, but they don't know how to flow to get there?
So in this case, it was entrepreneurs, smaller companies, but they had employees. And the bottleneck was in the CEO office, right? They were not either given the right skills, like in the medical device, they brought me in to figure out the problem, or in his manufacturing company, the CEO, quite frankly, was the bottleneck. He wanted his people to make decisions. They made decisions. Then he didn't agree with them. Then he said, it's not the way I would do it. He'd get them ticked off, and they weren't moving forward.
So it was conflicting interest.
Yeah. And then I said, you need to hire a COO, let them run the plan. He did, but then he'd go back and get involved. And finally, after a few years with him, I said, you want to know what my next recommendation is? He's going to say, and he said, yes. I said, you need to fire yourself.
What did he say? That's pretty shocking, Ron.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
But it was the only last resort that I could do. And he looked at me, and he said, okay. He didn't do anything immediately, but within a year and a half, we found the right COO who became his CEO, and he trusted him enough where he did fire himself and actually moved out of the company facility so he wouldn't be involved, because he knew that was his tendency, and he wanted to give the CEO the best opportunity to succeed, and it worked famously.
Wow, that's a lot of restraint.
A lot of restraint, but he's in a better place. He's now not losing money. He's making a ton of money. He is about to have his family taken care of for the rest of their lives.
Amazing.
And he's happier and less stressed.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you were recently, you were speaking, you were just giving a speech to a furniture manufacturer,
yes.
Didn't you?
Yes, I was on retainer with a high-end furniture manufacturer trying to sell high-end furniture to, the lucrative market.
And so what was your message for them?
Same thing. We were teaching them how to ask better questions. They were just, people don't really understand the power or the value of what they really sell. When you're selling high-end furniture, you're not selling a chair. You're selling
an experience.
An experience,
yes.
Exactly. What do you want people to feel when they're in your home? What do you want them walking away? What's the one word you want them thinking about when they visited you? What was the experience you want to have? Because feelings drive our actions. That's why as stage people, whether you're giving a speech or singing or acting, our performances are equal in the sense that the audience won't like it unless we made them feel good.
Right.
So how do we make the audience feel, and does it move them to action? That's what we have to worry about. So when I'm speaking to a furniture company, I have to first look at their mindset. What's the experience that they think they're selling, and get them away from selling a product to really understanding the lifestyle of the customer, understanding what's really important, because it's subjective,
Do you, when you go into a company, do you have to research the dynamics and the culture of the company, and how does that look?
Well, when I'm brought in to speak, I first speak to the sponsoring executive. What's the outcome that you want to achieve, and what's the change in behavior you want to see. Then I'll ask them to give me between 3 and 5 people that I can interview from the audience. Some of the movers and shakers, some of the nuts, top producers, to see what the differences are. Then I can bring them into the speeches so they're included.
Right.
But more importantly, it starts giving me the nuances. So when I start telling my process, I can customize it around their nuances so that they feel and know that I understand what they are going through.
That's interesting. Do you speak to, all levels, like even like a secretary, or do they give you?
I was brought in to speak to route truck drivers of a famous bakery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and they're salespeople. How much can they sell off the truck when they go around on their deliveries?
Right. And like, what secrets did you learn?
Same thing. I taught them, like I would teach a professional sales team or leaders, and they loved it.
What did you learn in your career that maybe you would have done differently?
Early on, I felt like I could change anybody. We can't change people.
No.
We can give them a better process and what they can use to get better results. We can find a better way to motivate them based on what they're after. We can find a better way for them to do it based on what their tendencies are, but we can't change them. At the end of the day, someone's got to come with the willingness to do what it takes to get there. And I've stayed too long with some people.
I think everybody stayed too long at the fair. But do you think that there are certain types of people that just give up or are not willing to do the work to get to where they need to be?
If you take the executive that I just mentioned about who's selling his company now for $70 million, the one who I said you need to fire yourself, that guy is a smart dude. I saw it from day one. I was impressed by his thinking. And then after the first 3 years, I realized he's his own bottleneck. But I learned from him. But what I also learned is, as much as I push him, as an individual, he's only gravitating so much. And it took me 3 years to get the audacity to tell him he needs to fire himself. I should have done it 2 years earlier.
Was he shocked when you said that?
He was shocked. And it took him 2 years to do it.
Right.
But the point is, if I got to it sooner, he probably could have gotten to this result sooner.
But maybe he had to go through the process.
Yes, sometimes you have to go through the process. You're absolutely correct. But it was a difficult process in the beginning.
So we only have a few minutes left. I want to know what you feel that your purpose is.
Yeah, my purpose is to help people stop being in their way, get themselves out of their own way so that they can really achieve what they want to achieve in this world while they're here.
Wonderful. I love it. I love it. And people can visit you at ronkarr.com.
ronkarr.com, and they can also get the Velocity Mindset on Amazon if they would like.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, this has been such a pleasure, and I'm just so proud of you and your congratulations with your new look.
Thank you.
You're going to go out there and shine.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you so much, Quinn.
Thank you. I'm Quinn Lemley with Secrets of the Stage. We air every Sunday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on MNN.com Channel 4, or you can see us on Spotify or Apple TV. And please visit me at quinnlemley.com, sign up for my newsletter, and I want to see you in your city when we're on tour. Until next time, I'm Quinn Lemley with Secrets of the Stage.